Okay, we are recording, just so you know. Today we're doing a class on dowsing, and we're using a lot of Raymond Grace information. So that's kind of fun, but I'll throw some of my own in there and take away what you need to take away, throw away what you don't want or don't use. You do need to have a dowsing thing. So whatever you're going to douse with. I have had dowsing instruments in the past that I've bought, and I keep looking around because it was literally just on the table. They disappear all the time. My dowsing instruments disappear all the time. So I have a necklace that I have been using. And I just take it off and hook it to itself, and basically that turns into my dowsing instrument. So that's what I'm using today. Let me see what happened here. Okay. So that's what I'm using today is this. So make sure you have your dowsing instrument. Let me share my screen real fast and we'll go through all the stuff that we're going to be looking at today. So the first thing you need to have is a dowsing chart. And so I sent that in an email, and the one I'm using is going to be exactly like the one you're looking at, minus the Raymond Grace logo in the center. So mine is kind of a plainer version of that actually came off the Walt Woods website, which is where Raymond got this from and modified it. So if you don't have one, this is a good one to use. Basically, what we're looking at is two circles, both numbered. Yes at the very top, no is on the side, and that's how we're going to program your pendulums to work that way. And then from 1 to 10 on the inside circle, all the way back to 1 again. And I forget why he did that. I don't usually use this half of it. I'm only usually over here on the first right quarter, I guess. The outside circle is used for percentages. So 10 would be 10%, 20%, 30%. And you can always multiply these by 10 again if you're counting something like 100, 200, 300, right? And then in the center would be, the center of 10 to 20 would be 15 kind of idea, or 150 or 1,050. So depending on if you're counting or what you're working on. If you're asking percentages, you can also use the inside line from 1 to 10, and then 10 would be 100. So it's kind of the same idea. And I'll show you how to do that during this class. But that's the basic dowsing wheel. Clockwise is always adding positive, is the general notion. Counterclockwise is taking things out or removing things. Okay. So that's pretty simple. I am going to jump over to the other chart I sent you. And I don't use this chart. I just thought it was funny when I saw it. There's a lot of stuff on here. You kind of could make up your own way of working with this. If you read through all the stuff that's on the bottom. And the reason I actually threw it in here is they have the counterclockwise and clockwise thing on here. They have an alphabet. And I was just talking to an old friend of mine, and she's like, yeah, I was asking the name of a guide or something. And I'm like, and what did you get? And she goes, well, it's spelled out. And I'm like, what do you mean it's spelled out? And she goes, oh, I use my pendulum and I douse for the letters, and then I know what the name is. And I was like, oh, that's too funny, because I always just listen for that kind of stuff. But so she actually douses for it. And it kind of looks like, I forget the Ouija board kind of idea, I guess. And any of this stuff is positive or negative depending on how you're using it, right? So understand that a Ouija board is not necessarily the devil's tool. It actually started out as a game, I think, by Mattel, I want to say. I could be wrong on that, but it was a game board before it turned into something evil, when somebody realized that they could actually contact spirits with it, right? So all of this stuff is either positive or negative, depending on how you use it. I found this little chart kind of interesting because it has percentages from 5 all the way around to 100. She has something about a red flag on here. You see this red flag, so that's supposed to be take heed, be careful, which I think is kind of strange, but I guess some people might need that. An hourglass, which means it's a wrong time to ask a question. And I would just totally dispel that. I don't think it's ever a wrong time to ask a question. Did I not get Shamina in here? Okay, hopefully that got her in. I don't think it's ever a wrong time to ask a question. Through time and when you change, answers will change. So just understand that. As you're doing things and you're working on things, your answers might change based on how you've changed, how your perceptions have changed. So I don't think there's ever a wrong time to ask a question. Another thing she has on here is an incomplete question, that you need more data for a good answer, which could be possible. And that's one of the things we'll talk about, is setting a very clear question. And then she has one on here that's no symbol. Questions should not be asked. And I just totally disagree with that. There is never a question that should not be asked. If it's not supposed to be asked, you might not get an answer. That would be the biggest thing I could think about that. It has on here, may I, can I, should I? You can always ask questions that way. I don't typically do that, but we can take a look at that too. And then I giggled at the one on the bottom here. At what percent is my intuitive accuracy today? I'm going to tell you how to make sure it's the most accurate you can possibly get it, no matter what you're doing. And you should be doing this every day anyway. If you've been working with me or you do coherent work, you'll understand what I'm talking about in just a second. So we've got those 3 things. And then let me see. This is actually Raymond Grace's workbook, which I have used for years. Techniques that work for me. I absolutely love this man's language. I love how he looks at life. I love the way he speaks. And this is a 4th edition. I actually have quite a few pages of the 1st edition. It fell apart a long time ago. I had a hardcover of it. But I still use the language and I use it in different aspects. So we're going to be going through this. If you don't have a copy of it and you want a copy of it, you can go to his website. And I think on his website, he charges $15 for a copy of this book, which is pretty minimal. And it's very short, it's very concise, so you'll have fun. Melissa, I think, found her dowsing instrument. You'll have fun looking through this, and we're going to go through some of this while we're in here. Okay, so those are, and then you'll need your dowsing instrument itself, your dowsing tool. I tend to call it a widgie. I always have. I don't know why. If you hear me saying widgie, that's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute. Did we lose Melissa? This is very bizarre. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so have your dowsing widgie, your dowsing instrument. The first thing I always do before I douse, always, is I get coherent first. Because if you are coherent, your questions will be more coherent, your answers will be more precise, and it's just easier if you're coherent first. We used to tell people to surround yourself with light first, but if you have light within you and your light is coherent, everything is coherent, right? But you could still do the surround, right? The egg-shaped thing. Remember that from what do you call it? The new age kind of idea. Put yourself in the egg-shaped light, right? So you're in there and protected. That would be one reason for it. I think the other reason for being coherent is just to get better answers overall. Okay, so we get coherent first. That's the first step. The second step would be to surround yourself with light, but I think that happens at the same time. The third step is to formulate a clear, concise question. Clear question. Do not make this hard. One of the things that Raymond always says, and I'm not going to have the page he says that on because I don't have the whole book over here anymore. I'd have to look at his other book. Is that everything is energy, right? And if you look at everything as energy, everything is shiftable. Everything is maneuverable, okay? And if you read his book, if you get that little book I showed you just now, you'll find this information in there. So you want to make sure that while you're coherent, you're also writing easy, clear questions. So some of the questions, let me see if I can find this page. Here we go. He asked, this is actually one of the pages out of my old book. It literally fell apart from his original book. That he would ask is, what is the overall condition of my health? So that would be an answer in a percentage form, and I'll show you how to do that. What is the overall condition of my health? And I'm just looking for percentage. Now, I did this before we got on because I haven't doused in a while, so I was playing with it. And I got 20%. And I feel lousy today. I had the worst night last night. You can hear it in my voice. Whatever they just sprayed over us, I'm just like, serious. Like, here we go again. And so then I said to bring it closer to 100%, like talking to my I am self, right? Bring that closer to 100%. And it spun around, and I'll show you exactly how I did this in just a second. But I think I got around 80% was the final number without working on it anymore at all. I didn't ask what it was doing. I didn't say anything about cellular blah, 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 or taking out or adding in. I just let the energy do its job. What I asked was, what is the overall condition of my health? And then I said, bring it closer to 100% once I got that answer. And I let the energy do its job. I actually feel better. I feel like I have more energy, even though my voice still sounds kind of raspy. But that would be the clarity that you want. You don't want to add a whole lot of, other words to it, like the fluffy words, the Louise Hay kind of affirmation kind of stuff. It's too much, right? The system doesn't need it. It's energy that we're dealing with, not a human's connection to their energy. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing I want to show you real quick before we go on is I print everything out. I love paper copies of stuff. So I have the one list, and this was like suggested affirmations by Raymond. I got this years ago when somebody else had gone to that class, and they sent me this packet, and I think it's part of what I sent you guys. But I have a notebook that I keep all this stuff in, right? So all of the pages I have left of Raymond's book are in here because it fell apart anyway. So I separated it and did that, right? This is one of the pages of it. I made multiple copies of that. I have one under the seat in my car. I have one on my desk all the time. He says he has one that's in wood outside of his house. So he carved one in the wood. He has one in the sand made out of stones or something. Just like, whoa, right? Even for me, that's like too much. But think about like where all you can have these so you can access it at any time. Now, I'm also going to tell you, using your pendulum is not the only way you have to do this. I know people who use their body as their pendulum. So they'll literally stand up, set their foundation. So their feet are kind of like, stuck to the floor. They'll draw a line from root down to the center of the earth. So they're nice and stable, ask their question, and their body doesn't literally spin into circles. They just start rocking, right? And some of you do that naturally, right? Every time you do any work, your body starts rocking. Your body in that instance is a pendulum, right? So you're using it. Look at Melissa digging through the earth. I love that. It's like you were opening up part of the earth over there. So you can do it that way. You can use your body. If you have nothing else to use, this is a necklace that I wear all the time that I can take off and change into a pendulum. So I use it. That's why the chain is so long. I lost my other pendulum again. They always disappear. I don't know why. So I'll be using that today. The other thing you can use is your hand, a limp hand. right? So I taught a lady years ago, she worked in a grocery store, and she always went in and she was griping about how her deli felt. And I taught her how to do this, but she could never keep a pendulum. Hers always disappeared too. So she's like, I walked in one day and I was doing the work, and she goes, I felt my wrist just doing this. She goes, my arm's hanging at my side, and all of a sudden her wrist is just spinning in circles. And she was like, oh. So she just uses that as her dowsing tool, and nobody ever questioned what she was doing. You know, people would laugh at her once in a while, like she had some kind of weird disease or something, but she would just sit there and she would walk around into areas and hold her hand. If it felt really bad, she'd ask if there's anything here that's negative, I'm telling you to leave, and her hand would do its thing, and all of a sudden it would feel different. There are so many ways to do this. Do not get tied to your pendulum because you don't necessarily need it. The other thing I would say about this before we get really started is that this is a tool to learn to listen. It's a tool to learn to hear. It's a great backup if you're having a bad day, right? But don't get stuck to doing this, because if you can learn to hear, if you can use your inner senses, this becomes kind of obsolete, right? So it's a stepping stone into some of the greater things. But when you need it, right? I actually use it outside in my garden probably more than anywhere when I'm doing things over my plants, telling them to grow. Okay, we are going to set your pendulum up to listen to you. So you want to have your pendulum out. And this is one of the things Raymond walked us through years ago. We've never done this. It's kind of interesting. Have your dowsing chart in front of you, or at least have an image of it in your mind. And you're simply going to hold the pendulum. I'm going to point this down. Can you see that all right? Just trying to make it bright enough. Can you see that at all? Yeah. Over the center, and just say yes. And I know some people are like, oh, you're moving your hand. I can keep my hands pretty still at this point just to prove to people I'm not moving my hand. I'll tape my hand down to a table, and I could use to show people. When this rocks, your hand's going to start rocking, especially if it's weighty. And this stone is kind of weighty, so my hand's going to rock back and forth a little bit. But if you say yes and you know your yes, it's going to start swinging to yes. Melissa, is your swinging to yes? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's sort of.
Okay. So firmly say to it yes.
It's moving a little bit, yes.
Sometimes mine moves just a little, and sometimes it moves a lot. And then I want you to say no.
No. Okay, it's
Switch positions.
Oh wow.
Did it switch positions?
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
And come back to yes just by saying yes or thinking yes. And you can also, I had a friend that used to do this, is tell your guides or tell your inner self, move it clearly so you can see what the answer is.
Oh my God, it did. It moved.
Yeah, you're speaking to your inner self, right? We're working with the energy. Some people say it's just the energy of your knowledge that makes this move. I have attached mine to my inner self because there's more power there. And I'll go back to no. Show me a no. And then if you say stop, sometimes I'll tell it to stop so I can get a clear read on something. It should land right in the center. And it might take a second for it to come to a halt, but most of the time it can come to a pretty quick stop. Did you get that?
It's not moving around as much, but it's still moving.
Okay, so it's trying to stop. The more you do this, the more you play with it, the easier it gets, the better you get at it. So now we're going to do the same thing. I want you to hold it over the center. And this time I want you to say, my name is, and then emphatically say your name like you know who you are. And Melissa, I'm going to have you turn your, and mute you again. There you go. Just so when you say your name, Shamina's isn't picking up on your information. So go ahead, say your name emphatically like you know who you are. So I would say my name is Christy, and then I would let it swing. Is it saying yes? Is it an agreement? Your name is your name. And then pick another name. I usually pick George. My name is George. And what we're doing is we're just programming this to you. You can ask any question you want as long as you know the answer, right? So is my husband's name Dan? So I'm just programming it to work yes and no in the direction that I want it to be in. I'm literally just programming the pendulum. I know, I saw that. And then just ask it a few questions that you know definite answers to, and get the answers that are correct. Make sure you're getting correct.
I have a question. So mine takes a while to like get there. Is that normal?
It can be when you first start doing this. Some of that could just be your like amazement that you're doing this, or it could be, you know, just uncertainty will cause it to move slower. When you know that you know that you know, and you have no qualms about any of this, it just works the way it works.
So just ask it questions that I know the answer to?
Yes, because you're just programming it at this point. You're programming yourself is what you're doing, right? We're not programming anything else. You're programming yourself. So just kind of play with it for a few minutes. And then we're going to ask an interesting question. I want you to ask when you're ready. Melissa, do you feel like yours is programmed?
Yeah, it just takes a while. Yeah.
You're doing pretty good with it. And I would say for anybody else who watches this later on down the line, if you're still working on programming it, turn the video off, work on this some more, ask some more questions that you know definite answers to, and just keep playing with it. And then when you come back, we'll continue this. So now the question I want you guys to ask is, am I 100% me? Am I 100% me? Do we get a yes or do we get a no? Melissa, what are you getting?
So it's pointing towards no, and it's doing like, I could have sworn it was doing counterclockwise.
You went right into the spin. So when it says no, am I 100% me? It says no. What I do is simply this. If it's saying no, I say, what percentage of me is not myself? Something to that nature, right? What percentage of me is not myself? Because now you're getting information that you can actually calculate. So see what information you get when you ask that question. What are you getting, Melissa?
So, on the left-hand side, it was between like 5 and 6. So, but so I guess that's 50 to 60.
Yep. And so you program it by telling it to work on the side that you want it to work on. So I always work off the right-hand side. If it's way over on the other side, you could be in the negative.
Yeah, I am in a negative.
So simply, like literally simply, we keep this simple, right? Bring me back to as close to 100% as possible. And it should swing, it should start swinging clockwise. And then you would sit and just let this swing out until it comes to a stop. And if you're in the negative, it might take a few seconds. Is it swinging clockwise? Yeah. Some people want to go through all the effort of removing everything that's causing you not to be you. And so it'll have to swing counterclockwise, and like you can get this doing all kinds of stuff. Take the easiest route. Bring me back to 100% me. Let the energy do its job. And then notice, right? I always like the feeling inside because you can feel the energy shifting inside you. So I always sit inside and I watch and notice what it feels like inside my body. Now, with this, well, Melissa's is still working with this, I would say you can ask any yes, no question that you want to. Once you've got it programmed, a lot of people will do this in a grocery store and hold an item. And this is where the sway became real popular. You know, get an item and hold it to your heart center and then ask, let me bring this back up. Ask, is this something I should be taking, or is this the perfect item for me? And then you would feel the sway forward would be yes. Some people say a sway back is a no, or they would feel the spin to the side. Or, I mean, I've actually seen people in the grocery store walking up and down the vitamin aisles, and when the pendulum starts swinging yes, they stop and look, which I've done that before, so I can't laugh too hard. So any yes, no question you can ask. The key to this is not to second guess the answers you're getting, because you're getting answers from your spirit. If you're coherent, right, you're in a total coherent state, you are getting answers from your I am self, right? Some people want answers from their guides. My guides are wonderful and I love them dearly, but I want answers from my I am self. And if I need to contract with my guides or with other angels or entities, then I go outside.
It's doing the clockwise, like, okay. Yeah, it took a while.
That's all right. It's all right. So let it keep going. What do you notice inside? So while that's spinning, what do you notice inside?
Well, now that it's working, I don't feel as anxious. Like, oh my gosh.
And your anxiousness is out of coherence, so that'll actually slow your process down.
Oh.
Right? So I always say, if you lose your coherence, get back into a coherent state and then keep going. All right, so you can use this anywhere for yes, no questions. For their percentage questions, we will play with some of Raymond Grace's stuff. You ready to move on?
What's that mean to not be 100% yourself? What is that? Entities?
It can be entities, it can be anxiety, it can be not trusting yourself, it can be, I want to say like the stigmatism of mental disorder. It can be like anything can cause you to not be 100% yourself. Randy Weitenheimer, I used to work with him a while ago, always talked about being 100% yourself. And he would go through all of these really amazing ways of tweaking the system. And he would like do it for you, which was kind of, and you could feel it. You could feel he was doing something. And I'm always looking for like, I don't want to say the easiest route, but the easiest route. It shouldn't be this complicated. None of this should be this complicated. And he would go through over, I think he said it was either 100 or 500. It was a lot of different things that he would check in a person's system to see if they were 100% themselves. And I got kind of, I don't know what I got one day, kind of cocky, I guess. And he was like, you're not yourself. Like, what are you doing? It's not yourself. Again, you're not yourself. And I was just like, oh my God, seriously. And while he was talking, I took my pendulum out and I was like, what percentage of myself is not me? And I got 30%. I said, bring me up to 100%. Like now, like get me at 100%. I was like, felt this huge energy go through my system. And he's like, oh, now you're 100%. What'd you just do? And I was like, I just said, bring me to 100%. And then that was kind of the end of our relationship. Because I mean, think about, right? Think about it. I don't know. I think we make this stuff way too hard. I love him to death. I love his work. I love some of the stuff he talks about, but there's just so much easier ways to all of this stuff. All right. So in the book, and I don't know if you can go to it. Maybe I'll just pull it up here. Let me find my share screen again. Let's go to the manual. Let me set this up right so I can actually see what I'm looking at here. I don't know if this is the same as the one that I have, so we'll find out. Table of contents. Changing disharmony of a relationship or situation. I love this. So this is how this can work. If you have disharmony in a relationship or you have disharmony in a situation, so he says this is the problem, is anger, disharmony, and lack of cooperation within a group of people or yourself. An example of this is once on a construction job, my entire crew, including me, got angry at each other, total disharmony and chaos reigned, right? So that would be the problem. You're clarifying the problem here. His technique for the solution with dowsing is using the pendulum to find the source. I identified the cause of the problem to be non-beneficial frequencies. Then again, using my pendulum, I simply ask the dowsing system or powers that be, or whatever you prefer, that would be my I am self, to either have them removed or transformed into something beneficial. Result, my pendulum swung counterclockwise direction for a few moments, then stopped. In about 15 minutes, everybody was getting along well and wondering what had happened to them earlier. Let's see. So you can read through all of this. Down here below it says, it seems that such incompatibility would also affect the relationship between people. You can check compatibility with spirit guides. On the percentage scale of dowsing, the same wording is used to make corrections as written above. I suggest that before you do this, I suggested that you do this before any business meeting or job interview. It's also a good technique for traveling with people, vacations, visiting in-laws, right? So back to the technique. He says, I identified the cause. Now, in his classes, he will go through like a handful of issues that could be causing the problem. So non-beneficial frequencies. Let me find my page here. Non-beneficial or non-coherent energy. You could go through all the stuff like demons. And there's a place in here in his book, he actually has that. Demons, poltergeists, he calls it basic ghost busting. You can go through curses, hexes, vexes, all of that kind of stuff. What I have gotten to where what I do is if the problem is anger or disharmony, and it's with a certain person, and I'll just use my son as an example here. Let me switch back out of this real quick. I'll use my son as an example here. So I'll say, and clarity, right? Clarity in your statement. I am incoherent with my son, or I have a, what was the word he used? Disharmony with my son. And I will say, well, it's because it's saying, yes, I have a disharmony with my son. I will say, what percentage of our relationship is out of harmony? And I'm getting about 35, between 30 and 40%, so about 35%. And I will simply just say, bring that back to 100%. So 30% of our relationship is out of harmony. Now you'll notice, if you can see this very well, it's swinging counterclockwise. So we're removing something. Do I ask what? No, I don't. Bring it back to a coherent state, right? Bring the disharmony back to a harmonic state. Now you could go through and ask and find out, right? He identified the problem to be non-beneficial frequencies. And if you find something, or if you already know it's something like that, you can do work dowsing to re-regulate the frequencies. But I just assume that's what it's doing anyway, right? Whatever is out of harmony, we are bringing back into harmony and bringing to 100%. I'm going to put you guys on hold for 2 seconds. You can talk amongst each other, and I will be right back. Okay. What did you notice with that? Looks like you're still working. What did either one of you notice with that?
I got like 30 and 40%
Okay.
about my non-harmonious with, I wouldn't call my boyfriend, but this guy I'm talking to, who's potentially.
And did you bring it back to 100%, or did you get as
No,
close?
not yet. I was gonna do that.
Oh, okay, or as close as you can get. That is literally just something to play with, right? When you're dealing with another person, I always try and remind people they have choices too. Just because you're trying to will a relationship or the disharmony of a room back into a certain state doesn't mean it's going to always be what you want because their will resides over them no matter what. Right? You can change the harmony of a room or of a, like he was talking about, a construction crew faster than a single person. Because the room's trying to work together usually, or the crew or whatever it is, usually the one person has their own agenda, which is just how we are as humans. Okay. Any questions on that one? Does that one make sense?
Yes. No questions on that, but when I'm doing dowsing, do I need to, because I find that if I say it, you know, like bring it back to 100% or whatever command that I'm telling it to do, and if my mind starts wandering, it starts changing. So then I start repeating to stay focused and keep the energy. Is that necessary, or is it something that's just concentrating on it? Or
I mean, it could be that you're concentrating. I would get coherent again.
Okay.
The fastest way to 0 point is to be empty.
Okay.
Right. So years ago when they would teach this, they're like, just let the energy do its job. Right. So if you ask a question or give a command, it's going to start spinning. Let it do its thing. Try and stay out of it.
Okay.
But if you are aware enough to know that your thoughts are going to alter it, because they do, yeah, get empty. Get empty. Because if your brain is quiet and your heart's quiet and your gut's quiet, you'll get clearer answers and you'll get faster results.
Now I've done the dowsing too in certain situations, and it's probably because I wasn't empty, or just, is there like a resistance that you can create yourself? And because sometimes I've let all douse to like get rid of any entities or certain things like that, and it feels like it takes forever. Like,
yeah, and I think that's another, and he has that on here too, the ghost busting idea, which makes me giggle. Getting rid of, like, it's like an exorcism, right? You're getting rid of negative entities on you.
right.
So if you think you have negative entities, you're creating negative entities.
That's right. Yeah.
So I go back to clear everything out, quiet everything down, and then ask the question and see if you actually have an entity or if it's something you created. Right? Is there a spiritual force harboring in my field somewhere? Or am I literally just creating my own issues because of fear or paranoia or, right, any list of those kind of things that can cause you to feel like you have entities.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. So on the ghost busting page, which is literally what he calls it, in the book I have, it's page 10. I'm not sure when you get his book what page it's on, but oh, don't die. My computer wants to die. There we go. One of these days I'm going to get an updated computer where the cord doesn't come loose. But not today. He says, so the problem of negative entities can cause people to get grouchy, dishonest, sick, use alcohol, be drug users, abusive to their family, suicidal, and a lot of other undesirable characteristics. Technique for solution: determine if the person is possessed and by how many entities. So he would count the entities. He would ask how many. So you would literally hold, let's see what he says on here. Determine if there's negative entities within the person's energy field that are causing problems. He says a lot about entities in here and what number they can be on. Like you can ask how many there are, and then like a -30 would be a serial killer. You could ask where their energy is or how strong their energy is. And he literally says in here, 0 is nothing, it's balanced. And then if you go to -30, if something shows up at a -30, that would be like a serial killer kind of idea. And it says, ask your spirit guides to take the negative entities possessing the person on all those with their energy field over to the other side where they're given appropriate treatment by those on the other side. Ask that they be sent to the realm of the spirit world where they need to go. So you're not only removing them, you're sending them, right? He says to send them over to the other side. Then once this is done, ask for a shield of protection to be placed to be placed around the person, that so no negative entities can come within their field again. I have found that if you are doing this for people, they will never learn how to do it for themselves. You will end up in a world of hurt with them always going, I got something on me, help me get it off, all the time, right? So teaching them how to do it, I'm dead serious. Teaching them how to do it is always, and if they don't want to, then that's their choice. Right now they're making decisions, it's their choice. I don't have to do this for you. It has always been my kind of stance on it. So ask, pick a person, right? So ask if you can work on that person first, and then pick a person, because we're just going to see what's on there. You know, say the person's name, and then how many entities is that person possessed by? And those are the words that he uses. If I stay on the inside circle, so I'm going to kind of put the information into the field, use the inside circle of the chart. So I get a 4. If you're not saying which one you're using and you're guessing, is it 4 or 40? Right? So which circle are you using? I'm using the inside circle. So the person that I have inputted into this has 4 entities. And then if I ask, can I clear that person? I always ask first. In this instance, that I get a yes, because it's a person that I do work for a lot. It is probably the only person I do this stuff for. And then I clear it the same way that what Raymond said. Take the negative energies off, send them over to the other side where they get the appropriate treatment. Because some of these entities aren't mean, they're not like demonic, even though we want to treat everything like it's demonic. It's not demonic. Some of these entities are just lost, right? And they get attached to people in different ways, but we don't want to send them all over there and crush all of them. Let the spirit guides decide on the other side how they're treated. And then instead of asking for a shield of protection, which you can do that also, because mine has already stopped swinging counterclockwise. So I asked if the person is totally clear of entities. I get a yes. And now I say raise their energy to the appropriate height, to the appropriate, however you look at that, raise their energy to the appropriate space so that no entities can come back into their energy field. Right, so I don't have to worry about figuring out how to protect them, just raise their energy to whatever's needed. And then the dowsing widgie, I can never think of the word pendulum. The widgie should spin counterclockwise, or it should spin clockwise when it's putting in the good vibration. Now, if you go through Raymond's book, it's kind of funny because he's got something for pretty much everything. The next one is demons. And he talks about where you can find demonic interference. If you run into something and you don't know, what is this? If you are a seer, which I am a seer, I see things all the time, I will literally ask, is this demonic, or is it something that is it something I'm safe around? And one question at a time, right? You can't ask both of those at once. Is this demonic? I get a no, it's not demonic. Is it something I'm safe to be around? I get a yes. And then I would start asking its name, like, what's your name? Why are you here? How can I help? Right? But that's just me. That's how I handle those situations. If it's demonic, I do the work to get rid of the entity, right? Pretty much anything you can think of can be done like this with a pendulum. If it's not a yes or no question, I look for a percentage. right? Find some way to ask the question clearly and look for the percentage. He has one in here for curses.
I have a question. Does it matter? So on that top half, does it matter if it's on the positive or negative for percentages?
I always use it on the right side, on the positive side. Negative.
Mine always goes left.
I would, well, maybe because it's a negative number, it's a negative percentage. So I would keep bringing it out into the positive percentages. Or if you feel like it's programmed incorrectly, program it to work on the left side. I'm sorry, the right side, on the positive side. And you can ask, so whatever it was you were just working on and it gave you a percentage on the negative side, ask, is that a negative percentage? You'll get a yes or a no. If it tells you no, if you get a no, then it's probably your pendulum is programmed funky. Yes or no?
It was a no, but then again, I asked like how many entities are attached to a person, and so.
Well, I don't know that you can have a negative number of entities attached.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so it said no when you asked, is that a negative percentage? You got no, right?
Yeah, I got no.
Yeah. So I would say next time ask another one. Ask on another person. And this time say, give me an answer on the positive side of the chart. And I would literally go through and read Raymond's book. Read his information, because there's some really interesting stuff in here. Even raising the energy level for healing. He says a complete clearing needs to be done using the information given in the book. So you can go through, this would be a good one to show you. You can go through the table of contents, right? So I take the table of contents and put it on my table. And I literally ask, remember up and down is yes and no, or yes and sideways is no. So I stop on the first one and I say yes or no. So there's something in that one that I would need to clear for myself because I'm asking for myself. I get to ghost busting, yes or no. I get a no. Demons, no. Poltergeists, no. Curses, no. Raise the level of energy for healing, no. Adjust and scramble frequencies. Yes. Adjust frequencies for prosperity. Yes. Definitely need that one. Right. And you can go through the whole list doing that. And then I go back to the ones that are the ones that I got yes on. And then I either try and figure out, okay, what is it that's causing the issue? Why did that show up? Or I will just say, correct it. Correct the issue, right? So if I have an adjustment or a frequency that needs scrambled, I just say scramble whatever frequency needs scrambled. I think I sent y'all his affirmation list also. There's some really interesting things, and there's a lot of them, unfortunately. But I would go through and I would read these and look at them, and it's literally the same thing. I'll hold it over it and ask yes or no. Got a no on the first one. No on the second one. No on the third one. So the third one says, I'm aware of all non-beneficial energies in my energy field, and I got a no. So that means there's part of my awareness that's not paying attention. So I would do some work on that. Right? So you can go through and ask, and with anything you can do this. With anything you can do it. Oh, and here's his little thing. He says, Dousing is mind developing, healing, and self-empowerment. All things are composed of energy. The intelligent human mind Can direct energy? I don't know if that's a typo. Energy is impressed on matter. Energy follows thought. Always, always, always. Right? So you can go through and measure the energy of something and then just simply amp up the energy of it. But I think coherence does the same thing. So if you get coherent and do this, if it takes a super long time, tell them to hurry up. I have a friend that will sit there and douse for like hours, and she's like, oh, my arm's hurting, my hand hurts. I'm like, say, hurry up. I'm not joking. I'm just like, seriously, I will not sit here for that long doing. I'm just like, come on, get her done. Right? If I say raise my energy, then, and people say, well, maybe your body needs a slower adjustment. You can keep adjusting it. I'm just not going to sit here dousing while you adjust it. Right? So you can put that into the information field too. Does that make sense? Questions, thoughts, ideas?
I just asked it to raise my energy level, and then it did the whole clockwise thing. It's doing it right now.
Yeah. Just imagine if you did that every day.
Oh my God. You know, I'm laughing, and it's just...
I'm just saying. You're so funny. I would pick a handful of things like that you knew you could adjust every day. Right? So raise my energy, clear any negative entities or non-beneficial energy out of my system. Right? I do actually, one of the things I do now is neutralize all the effects of spike proteins. I do that every day, neutralize the effects of spike proteins. I'm actually trying to work on a way, I was talking to some people about it on Telegram, is how do you do that so your body is totally shielded? How do you create some kind of total energy shield so those proteins can't get to you? Those spike proteins can never get to you. Interesting question. Everybody was like, whoa. Right? Cut energy cords, cut non-coherent frequencies to people that are causing you worry or issues or whatever it is.
I just asked it to raise my focus, and
Yeah. I had a friend once did body weight, and she said, literally, it was on the dowsing chart, and she said something to the effect of, what percentage of my body is fat? And she got like 40% or something. So that's what I'm getting right now is 40%. And then she said, release all the fat that I can release today, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. It was something silly like that. She's like, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. Release what I can release today. And it spun counterclockwise. And she goes, I did that every day for like 10 weeks. And she was down to her goal weight. No exercise, didn't change her eating.
it's a gain weight, because I'd like to act the opposite.
Well, what do you think? Can you?
Yeah, I think so.
And it might require, like, in order to gain weight, right, you have to put it in the system to put the weight on the body. But energy's energy, so you could play with it both ways. It might cause you to want to eat more, right, asking for that. So you might get this hunger that you haven't had before. Does that make sense? You turned your microphone back off.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. So, wow, this is interesting. This is very interesting stuff. Yeah,
So now,
well, well, my thing is that now my energy levels are great. I feel great. I felt better than I did before when I started all of this.
yeah.
I was like, well, I'm doing it right.
Well, and you can't, yeah, doing it right. You can't do this wrong. Right? This is just a visual. It just gives you a visual. Because I could just as well say, raise my energy levels. I'm commanding my body to do something. And if my expectation that it is that it does it, it's going to do it, right? But you have to build, right? This is why this is a good tool, because it builds you up to that place where you're like, I don't need this anymore. I can just say, raise my energy levels, create coherence in my body, create stability in my body, right? And then you feel all the stuff that causes that to happen. There's one on here of brain frequencies, which this is how I got started playing with brain frequencies. Was he has 20 cycles is beta, 14 cycles is alpha, 10 cycles is he says that's the best state of mind. It's universal intelligence. He calls it median. I don't really know what that means. 7 cycles is child, is theta, and then 3 cycles is delta. And so if I wanted to get into a delta state, I would literally just say, create a delta brainwave state in me. And you could ask, where am I at right now? What brainwave state am I at? And it'll show you the cycles. So if I'm in a beta state.
What page is that?
This is in the one that's suggested affirmations. It should be one of the handouts that I threw in there. It's like on the second page. But in anything like that, you can formulate it any way you want. Whatever you know about brainwave states, ask to bring your brain into that state. I was looking for anything else on here that would be helpful. So, I mean, if you keep reading through this cracks me up. He just now has in here, words can affect the body. Everything you say will affect your body. This is just a tool. It's a visual for you to be able to see it and then believe it. But you effectively can do the same just by speaking it, right? Just by commanding it. He says in here, your left brain needs to believe. You can pull any energy from nature, take energy from the trees, from the transfer their bark to you for healing. You can transfer fresh mountain air into your area for better quality. I have not thought about that. That's a good one. You can douse for traveling, for food, for medication. I douse for vitamins all the time. So I douse, and I used to douse, now I just put the sun in my belly and I create my own vitamin D. Last time I went in and got a blood check, vitamin D was off the cuff. And before I had been tanked, I had no measurable vitamin D, and now it's like off the chart. She's like, quit taking so much. And I'm like, I'm not taking any.
I can't stop laughing, Christy. Oh my gosh.
Good.
Energy.
Good. Does it make sense what I'm saying with the rest of this stuff though?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it just spun wider.
Let it do its thing. Let it keep going. Oh, so he's saying in here, I just now found this. If the dowsing system says it's a minus, then don't do it or ask to raise it, which is what we were doing with everything, is asking to raise it. He says
raise the frequency or just raise the energy or what?
Yeah, frequency, energy, the same thing. Yeah. He also says, ask if it will make it better or worse. So you can ask that question. If you're doing something, is this going to make it better or worse? That's always a good one to ask. Yeah. So I would go through and just read all of the stuff.
What percentage of overall health?
Say again.
Sorry, I was asking what my percentage was my overall health.
Oh, very good. You can like douse over, I used to do this all the time too, over alcoholic drinks. I can't turn water into wine, but I can turn wine into water pretty easy. My son would drink and drink. He's like, I never get drunk. Like, I don't get it. And I was constantly bringing the level of alcohol or the volume of alcohol down of anything he was drinking. And it seems to be pretty effective. You can douse over all the spigots in your house, right? For whatever. I had a guy in here the other day, actually was, he actually did a measure on the system that purifies our water, and then he measured it against what comes out of the natural tap. It was pretty gross. Like, the difference was amazing. The tap itself was coming out at like 200 parts per million of all the crap that's in the water. So he's like, it's pharmaceuticals and, you know, pollutants and what, he listed all this crap. And he goes, but once it's gone through the osmosis thing that you have here, now it's down to like, it was close to zero. Like, it was less than 0.1 something is how low it got. And I remembered Raymond telling a story about how he had doused over somebody's water well, and brought the arsenic that it was in it down to zero. And it never changed after that. And what he did was he asked how much arsenic was in it, parts per million, got a number, doused it down to zero, and then amplified the spirit of pure water back into the water. He asked the spirit of water to come back into the water. Right? Water holds memory. Water holds memory. Water has all kinds of information in it from all over the place. You can neutralize all of the information out of the water. I do that every time I pick up a glass of water, neutralize all the information. And then I ask the spirit of water to come back to the water.
I was I just asked. I think my overall health was about like 70-80%, which was pretty good. And I asked it to make it 100%, and then it spun clockwise, and it kind of like didn't spin as much anymore. Do we just like wait for it to stop?
Yeah, I mean, you can, right? If it's taking forever, I'll ask, can I move on, and this will keep going? Can you
Because
just
my
keep?
arm gets tired.
I mean, that's part of it, right? If you're going to do this kind of work, or you have to learn to listen. But you can say, keep this going, and I'm going to move on. You have to believe what you're doing and what you're saying holds some kind of weight in order for it to work, is what it boils down to. Do you have total control over the vessel? If you do, then you can command it to do anything you want it to do. If you get poison, neutralize the poison. Right? We're poisoned every freaking day, which is like, I'm constantly working on neutralizing poison. So that's why I'm working on something. Like, I haven't come up with the phrase yet, but something that'll neutralize poison on its own. I don't have to do anything but think about it. He says for polarity, because I'm always resorting people's polarity. If your polarity is out, you will get wrong answers. So your polarity might be out. That might be why it's shooting over to the negative side. So I would just ask, can I adjust my polarity? And if you get a yes, say thank you, adjust my polarity, and just let it swing. I always get the highest vibrational feeling from the polarity adjustments. I was just like, it makes my body go crazy. There are a lot of people who douse that only douse yeses and nos. They have no idea that you can do numbers. You can ask all kinds of information if you understand percentages, and then bring it back to either 0 or to 100%, whatever is most beneficial.
This is so interesting. Well, it's funny because like I think well, I guess this was before I had the dowsing chart or whatever, but like I would get impatient. It's like, why is this not so clear? And then like I would just give up when it wasn't so clear. And then now it's just like, well, I think I just worked on it until it became clear. Whereas before it was like, oh, this isn't working.
Well, I would say if you're programmed, right, if you programmed your instrument to yeses and nos and to yourself, you get yourself to 100% you. Your polarity's right. I always forget about the polarity till mine's wonky or somebody says something. If your polarity's right, you'll get good answers, and the questions are clear. People will start asking questions and just like throw all kinds of stuff into it and then wonder why they're not getting an answer. I'm like, I don't even know what you just asked. I don't even know what.
Wait, so can about the polarity thing? Like, is it between yes, no, like, or can I adjust or what was the question you asked about the polarity?
I don't even think I ask a question. I always assume mine's out because it goes out all the time. I just say
adjust my polarity. That's
adjust my polarity. And then if it says yes, I say, okay, do it. And if it keeps saying yes, then it's adjusted. If it starts spinning, which is what it just now did, it means it's out of alignment.
Yeah, mine's spinning.
I just assume my polarity is out of alignment right now because the Earth is losing its magnetic field right now.
What?
Its electromagnetic field is being bombarded pretty much every day by solar flares. And
Let's say it's the sun. Is this the sun trying to wake up humanity? Just blast a bunch of energies.
Well, it's natural, right? It's a natural occurrence with the sun. So it does wonk out your polarity. It will, right? If the Earth's losing its electromagnetic field, we are probably also. You can't lose one without the other because we're interconnected. But if I can keep my polarity relatively in alignment, I do way better. When it goes wonky and I don't catch it, I'm off the charts. Yep. So you can just ask, is my polarity, like whatever question you would ask to it, ask that question.
Well, I'd say, is my polarity corrected? Is that what the...
Yeah. However you would ask it, right? Think of a real concise way to ask it that makes sense to you and ask it like that.
It says yes.
The one thing he says in here about water having memory, I was just talking about that. Your body contains 73 to 80% of water. Water is the medium for cells. If you lower the surface tension, you will detoxify your body. That's interesting. You can check for compatibility between things.
We mean compatibility. We're talking about like
if two different things are coherent. So he says on here, check for the compatibility of your cells, right? If my cells aren't compatible with each other, the person will end up with cancer or some kind of thing like that. I've done a lot of work around compatibility of people's spirit guides or their angels or whatever they want to call them. If you have a person who has a spirit guide and that spirit guide hates the other person's spirit guide, it will, and you'll be like, I don't understand why we are always at odds with each other. And it's because your spirit guides are not compatible. But if you can bring them into compatibility, all of a sudden the people are just like, oh, interesting. Right? Everything calms down. He says on here, this is number 36. Some of this stuff to me is just crazy interesting. Check the level and transform to enlightenment. So check level of where you're at in enlightenment, I guess, and transform all your energy into enlightenment. Whoa. So you could do something like, what percentage of my energy is available for enlightenment? Or I don't know, what would that sound like? What percentage of my energy is ready to transform into enlightenment? I'm getting 60 or 70%. Can you create it, or can we make it 100%? Transform 100% to enlightenment. That feels wonky. I hear my spirit going, be careful what you ask for. Like metanoia, metanoia. Metanoia, metanoia.
I got like 60%.
Nice.
And then it's like change it to 100.
Is it doing it? Are you doing it?
Yeah, 100.
It shot me to 100 super fast, and it was just like, wake up.
I saw your
Whoa.
eyes. I was like, uh-huh.
Whew.
It's spinning clockwise. Oh dear.
No, just
100%
let it,
enlightenment.
let it do its job, right? That's
Do it.
the whole point. Let the energy do its job.
I'm excited. This is actually working. I love it.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a tool. It is a tool. It's something you can see so you can comprehend what's going on until you get it, how it works structurally inside your system. And then you can start playing with your energy and tweaking it without the use of a dowsing tool. It's a tool to help you learn to listen. If you can do both and you just use this as a check or as a gauge once in a while, it works like that too, which is what I think a lot of us use it for. Any questions on anything? Any ideas? Thoughts?
So I think this is an important question to ask. Future telling, will I? Those kind of questions, right? You can't.
Oh,
I
or it's like, is this a good decision or not? Should I do this? Yes or no?
And why wouldn't you ask that question?
Oh God. Well, it's funny because I do trades. I was like, should I make this trade or not? Is it gonna go up or down? I was like, okay, well, yeah, the whole future telling thing. Like what?
So, I mean, you have to realize, and here's what I would say, and he talks about this a little bit in one of these books somewhere, is that anything where you're trying to create prosperity on the workings of other people, there's always something else in play that you don't know about, right? So people always want to know timelines. How long is this going to take? When will this happen? Right? Give me a date. It's like, I can give you this date right now. I can tell you what this looks like when I'm like right here, right now, here's what it looks like. But if somebody else makes a decision, that will go sideways. It won't remain the same. Right? And if you change, as you keep up leveling your own consciousness and your own development happens, anytime you try and forecast or future cast something, that's going to alter also. Right? You might actually find a place where you've tried to do something and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, do I really want that? Because you've altered your own perception and you've changed your own reality. And then all of a sudden, like you get to, make a different decision. The will of other people always come into play. Most people don't understand that. They're like, do the work, it's going to happen. You just got to wait for it. Not if somebody else makes a decision, you're waiting for nothing. You're wasting your time, which really sucks.
Well, you could put like a time restriction, it's like within the next couple hours. You know what I mean? Like just to,
why would you play that? Why would you play that game?
I don't know.
I just don't do it. I won't give people numbers. I won't give people dates. I won't ask for dates. Take for example, all the people who for at least the past 2 years, if not since 2012, have been guessing the timeline of when this whole thing is going to self-destruct. When the money system's going to go down, the food system's going to go down, everything is going to just totally flatline. How many people are playing the numbers game on that one? Give me a date, give me a date, give me, oh, it's going to, didn't happen. Give me another date. Oh, it didn't happen. Give me another date. Oh, it didn't happen. It's clearly happening. We're heading that direction, but nobody's got a date because everybody, it's like a chess game. Everybody's got a piece on the chessboard. And if I move my piece, I've altered the whole game.
Mm.
Right? So it doesn't work that way. And I wouldn't play that game just because you're wasting your time and your energy. Find something more constructive to either ask or some constructive way to handle whatever it is you're trying to do. Otherwise, it's just a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. It's how I see it. Other people might see it differently. I don't know. Did that answer your question, Shamina?
I just knew it was a valid question. It was going to help Melissa and probably everybody else that was going to be listening to this because that's coming. So
It has forever. People want to know that kind of stuff. And I'm like, if it's only you're the only person involved and there is nothing else involved, you might get a clear kind of idea of it. But if there's other people involved, one of them makes a decision, it could throw the whole thing sideways. I just don't play that game. It's not worth the effort. What else? Thoughts, questions, ideas?
I was gonna ask, like, in terms of like, well, I asked them to raise my focus, but it's like, oh yeah, if you're well, there used to be anything. It's just like getting rid of procrastination or like, well, because I think it just naturally gets rid. I don't know, like just. Yeah, I think you mentioned something about, oh God, what was it? Like negative mental states, like mental energy, something, changing belief. Yeah, like anything having to do with like, oh, I really don't want to do something, and then, well, it's a matter of willpower, right? It's always a matter. No,
I don't think so. Have you ever tried to willpower through something?
yes,
Yeah. Did it work?
a little bit. I mean, I was fighting an uphill battle, and I hated every minute of it.
Yeah. So like think of it like this. So if I'm trying to willpower through something, so give me a for instance, what are you trying to willpower through?
Cleaning my apartment, taking out the trash.
All right. So let's say cleaning your apartment. So you're trying to willpower through it. You could say, raise my energy, bring me into coherence with my apartment for a clean apartment, right? So you're changing the energy of your apartment. You're changing your own energy. Make me compatible with a clean apartment, right? Choose some really good words here. And then do the dowsing thing and then see how you feel about cleaning your apartment. The kicker with that kind of stuff is always getting off your butt and doing it. But if you're struggling with the energy of willpower, that is always an uphill fight. Always an uphill fight. So if you alter the energy and you make yourself compatible with whatever the thing is that you're fighting about doing, you'll probably have an easier time getting through it. But you still have to get up and do it. The apartment's not going to clean itself. Right?
Yeah, the energy wise, I won't feel like crap when I do it, and just, what I mean?
Yeah. That's why you bring yourself into compatibility with it. Right? Raise your energy, raise its energy so your energies are the same.
My pendulum is going crazy.
And then do the work.
So that could be anything, like studying, like just like in terms of like learning concepts, right? It's like make me compatible with this concept.
Yep. I've told this story 1,000 times if I've told it once. When I was becoming a personal trainer, I want to say this was about 10 years ago, and I was studying for the NASM tests, right, which is the hardest test you can take for a personal trainer. I literally would open the book. Like I would sit down, I would open the book and I would put my hands on it and I would say, put this in my brain. I saw a kid on YouTube, like open the book, scoop it into his face, turn the page, scoop it into his face. And he was dead serious. Like I'm sure people were laughing watching the video, but this kid was dead serious while he was doing it. And I'm like, oh, that's all you have to do? So I did that. I put my hands on it. I talked to it. I put it under my pillow. The first time I took the test, all the computers in the room went dead. The whole place went out because I called my angels in to help me get through it. And the second time I took the test, I was like, okay, don't take the computer system out, but we're gonna get through this. So I was asking, I would say the question, and then I would say A, B, C, or D. And I would just like literally whatever I heard, I would put down, and I passed the test.
Well, okay, what about like if you don't have a physical book and it's more on the computer screen?
Why would it be any different?
Yeah.
Same thing. But a lot of it's your commitment to sitting there and doing the energy movement, right? Because I'm moving the energy of whatever it is I'm trying to get into my system. And the test was literally like, do I know the information? I knew it enough to change or to, and I could get information from my angel team or from my guides, which I now know is my I am self. But I knew enough that I could do that. It was when I was actually in the gym working with people and they would say something or have an issue. And all of a sudden I would just be telling them blah, 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 let's do blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, in my head, literally, I'd be going, oh my God, like, I hope that's right. Like, how do I know that? I didn't even know. And then I would go back and look it up and I was like, oh, wow. Spot on every time. So bizarre. But I knew it because I knew the energy. I didn't know it because I read every word and then I crammed for the test. And I knew it because I knew the energy. But I think that's how all of this works. You have to be committed to that kind of a belief system, I think. Yeah. And then do the work, right? If you douse to make yourself compatible, get up and start cleaning your house and see how it feels. Go by feeling. What does it feel like? Clean your apartment. How does it feel? Take out the trash. How does it feel? Because the more you do that stuff, the more you're going to be like, oh, that's really how this works. I have to be compatible with whatever the surrounding is. Sometimes you will not get compatible. And if it's another person, there are times when you cannot do anything to cause compatibility. Nothing you can do. Right? So I just stay compatible here. I stay coherent here. You could do that with this too, right? Instead of going through all the stuff to get coherent. Am I coherent? So I'm getting a yes right now. If I got a no, I would just say, bring me into coherence. And then I would let it spin. Bring me into coherence. Am I coherent? Bring me into coherence.
Well, this is interesting because I don't even ask yes or no. It's like, no, it's just like, well, the other one was raise my focus to 100%. It's like you're already assuming it's not. So just raise it to 100%. Like I don't even ask the yes or no.
I mean, and you could to have something to gauge it against would be the point, right? Because at some point, your focus is going to be 100%. And if you're still doing that, you don't need to. Some things like with the polarity thing, just because the earth is falling apart, I know that people's polarities go out really easily right now, and they have for years anyway, but right now it's worse than it's ever been. But at some point you might be in that place where you're 100% and you're. The other thing you could do, this would be an interesting one for polarity and for the subject you were talking about, is to make your body 100% compatible with your mind Or with polarity, I would make myself 100% compatible with the earth. So as it shifts, I just naturally shift. That's a good one. Did that make sense? Make yourself 100% compatible with the energy of the cosmos. It can get really fun. It's just like, okay, what can I do with this? Like with anything, I'm always trying to bring myself to the highest level possible, the fastest way I can figure out how to do it. And just know if it starts swinging counterclockwise, it's removing something. I just let it do its work.
What if it's clockwise? Because mine always spins clockwise. That like
Clockwise is adding.
okay.
Counterclockwise is taking out. Yeah. All right, was that helpful? There's a lot of information in there. Hopefully that was helpful. I just made myself dizzy doing the cosmos. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I did the cosmos thing too. I was like, oh my gosh.
Make me dizzy.
I did make my body 100% compatible with my I am self, and that just perks you up.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You can feel that. My heart is like.
That's
Wow. So yeah, you always think do the energy work first before you actually do anything, right? Because it just makes it easier.
it does, right? Which is exactly what you're talking about, like the willpower. That's why willpower doesn't work, is because the energy's out of alignment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, this is weird. But like, can you ask? Well, it's not really a yes or no question. It's like have a good day at work, like, and then just let the energy do its job. Like, just have a good day at work.
Yeah. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that? I think that's amazing. Have a good day at work. Have a good day wherever you are. If you're always talking like that to yourself, you shift your whole perception of everything. Because most people are walking around saying, oh, I have to do this again. Oh, this is such a drag. Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, me too. Everyone always dreads going to work, right? So,
I don't.
well, it's funny. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So, well, and also Mondays, because it's like, oh, yay, the weekend, and then oh no. So, it's always that drag. It's like no, but well, and it's interesting because I'm actually going to a wedding on the 25th of March, and it's like I was invited to this wedding. It's like it's only been the second wedding ever in my life, and I was like, oh wow, I could use that to, I don't know how to word that, but it's like I guess I don't know. It's like have a great day at the wedding, or like I don't know, like or compatibility, or
yeah, make yourself compatible with the energy of the wedding.
okay, make myself compatible.
Yeah.
And how often do I have to do this? Like just
What?
until how often do I have to do that? Like for a specific event, like until like it happens, or
I mean, I don't know. I would do it the day before.
okay.
Maybe do it the day of.
Yeah. Well, also anything. It's like shopping for a dress. It's like make myself compatible with the right dress for me or something.
With the what?
Like shopping for a dress, right? Because that's always anxiety provoking for me. It really is. And just the level of dread, like, oh no, here we go again. But it's like be compatible with the right dress for me. That
And that's manifesting on top of, right? You alter the energy and then you manifest. So the right dress comes into your world. I don't shop anymore, so I don't know what to tell you about any of that. If you're compatible, you're compatible. If the energy's compatible and you're in that same space, you're going to be fine. If you get to the wedding and you find out you're not having fun or whatever, do more work on it. Like right there, right then. Alter your energy in that space so that you can have fun while you're there.
Right, so, I mean, do I have to sit there and douse this thing, or just carry the pendulum and just let it do its, like, what?
Yeah. Use your hands, use your body, right? There's a number of ways you can do it. But if you don't, and you let your energy stay what it is, then you're probably not going to have a good time. That's on you.
I want to have a good time. I really do. I really want to have a good time.
I'm just saying, that's what I would do. I would either have my doubt, you got your necklace, right? Pull your necklace off and
This? Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I have to program this too.
yeah, walk around and let it swing. Plus, I mean, you
Wow.
get double bang on that thing because it's an EES
It's my EES system.
thing, right? So when it's swinging, it's going to be throwing off good energy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this one and see. Do I have to program this too? I didn't use this one today.
I would say yes, just to make sure. Just test it and make sure it's compatible with what your yeses and nos and all that kind of stuff is. Because I've seen people try to just grab something and douse with it, and they get all kinds of wonky answers, and they're like, I don't understand why. I'm like, well, it's not your normal tool or whatever. If you're not coherent and the tool itself isn't compatible for you to douse with, you're probably going to get weird answers. Thoughts, questions, anything else? Dowsing is super easy. Play with it. I would say play with it. And I would say be really creative. You can do anything with this. I actually can move the level of inflammation in my body if I'm steady, right? Consistency on some of this stuff makes a huge difference if you're consistent with it. I can move the level of inflammation in my body pretty easily, actually. I hear your wheels spinning over there, Shamina. What do you got?
You know me. Well, I'm just, it's a command. In my mind, I'm thinking consistency is, it's not even on my mind, I'm coherent, it's in my heart. Consistency is just knowing that it is.
Yeah.
It is done, right? You say it, command it, it's done. So it's the receiving of it, just staying open and not doubting that what it is, you know.
I think
My medallion's more responsive.
I think with some of it, it's hang on, Melissa, we'll come back to you. It's like on the consistency thing, it's the daily dose of poison you get from the airplanes that are flying overhead.
Right.
So
Yeah.
to me, that's the consistency part of it. But some of the stuff, if you can command it and know it's finished, it's finished.
Right. Like I just asked, what percentage of wealth am I receiving? And it said 30%. And I said, bring it to 100. And it brought it to 100. So it's
That's
done.
one of those you walk around with your hands up going, okay, I
Great.
received that. I love
Here we
that.
go.
Very cool. What were you saying, Melissa?
Oh, sorry. This my medallion's more responsive than my other one.
I just said there was a lot of energy in it from the start. So yeah, that's a high energy thing you've got there. All right, if nobody's got any other questions or thoughts, we'll jump off.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. This was fun.
Thank you so much. I was like, oh, thank God. This is like, it's like for the longest time, this was like a big mystery because like my thing is like, oh, it doesn't move as much as other people's. Like,
Well, and I've seen it. I mean, it's different for everybody, the responsiveness, and it could be like that rock that you've got that you wear on your neck is already highly energized. So sometimes it could be the stones themselves that people are using. But I know a person that was literally told you're supposed to learn to listen, and she didn't want to, so she kept dousing. And every time she picked up her dousing thing, she would hold it up and it would literally just like, you could see it almost like somebody was pinching it. And it was dead still, and she could not make that swing to save her life.
wow.
It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, they told you to listen. They told you. And just because you don't want to doesn't mean it's going to work that way. Yeah. Hey, what was that statement you said, Shamina, about what percentage is my wealth?
What percentage of wealth am I receiving?
Am I receiving? What percentage? I love that one.
And you know that word, receiving. So, and then I just said, turn my percentage of wealth, receiving wealth to 100. And I
Alright.
feel like I'm buzzing. So
Well, to 100.
Raise
Turn my
to-
wealth to 100.
All righty, you guys. That was way too fun.
Oh my God, I
Super
did it.
awesome.
I'm doing it too, and it's spinning like crazy.
You're more enamored with the spin of the thing than
Sorry, it's just like, no, it means it's doing something. It's like, holy, like the other one barely moved.
well, it's still doing something. It's your command and your I am self that cause the interaction. Remember, this is a tool. It is nothing more. There is no magic here. The magic's here. This is just a tool. That's it.
Well, I feel different. Like I feel like a different person than when I first started. That's for sure.
Good. Very fun. All right. If you end up with any other questions, just shoot me an email or text me or whatever.
great. Blessings, Christy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christy.
You're very welcome. All right. We'll see y'all again soon.
Okay, bye-bye.